We'll call to order the monthly meeting for the town of Chincoteague. If we could all please rise for the invocation. Brother Taylor.
Your common of Northern Maine, I want to thank you and praise you for all the good people you have put in our paths. Lord, we pray during this year, Lord, we'll learn to appreciate them more, love them more, and be kind to everybody we see. Lord, we pray especially for our town employees, Lord. And Lord, we certainly give us special employees, Lord. We know that they can make more money elsewhere, but they're here helping this town. And Lord, just be with them, give them strength, Lord. And Lord, everything this council does in 2023, Lord, we pray that we will seek your guidance first. And Lord, we just praise you for everything that you do. And just go with us, each and every one of us, and guide us and direct us. Lord, we ask these things in Jesus' precious name. For his sake, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we don't have to do that. Well, welcome everybody. Hopefully we're going to make this a quick one. First up, since we don't have anybody on the sign-up sheet, if anybody from the public that's here would like to speak, now's your chance. One and only chance. All right, next on the agenda, according to our town charter, first meeting after an election, we have to vote for our vice mayor. It is normally done by the person who gains the most votes. This year, that was Mr. Bott, by the narrowest of margins. Was it 5? Jay, do you remember? 4 or 5. I know Denise said you were praying. So,
Up for it.
You need to have this clear.
To be clear, talking about his wife.
He's been a fortune in science.
Yeah.
He's come out the day before the election.
Yeah, his wife Denise.
His wife Denise.
Make that clear. All right. So, does it say in here?
You just make a motion.
Yeah, I'm trying to read the ordinance on whether or not, I would guess I'll entertain a motion to elect Chris Bott as our vice mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we elect Brother Chris Bott as vice mayor of township.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Chris. Here we go.
Thank you all.
All right. Got that out of the way. Now, the reason we're all here. Mr. Tarr, you're up on deck.
Well, look,
Supervisor.
I'm glad everybody come early and get a good seat. So they're really worried about what's going on in the county, it looks like. Right now, everything is, I guess you want to say, we got our guns cocked and waiting to talk about the budget. I think this is probably the last month I'll have any kind of life at all until about April, because we have a meeting every other night, seems like. But one of the things that come up, we had a lot of discussion on, and we actually voted on it last September to approve it, but it was for the volunteer fire and rescue member tax relief. It's been on the books for years. But what it is it allows one volunteer we give them, they don't have to pay property tax for one vehicle. I think Chincoteague's been doing it for the time stickers and that little tax forever, but it's been on the books for the state for a while. We really haven't approved how we're going to count this up, but we're leaving it up to the chiefs of each of the volunteer fire departments to provide us a list of those volunteers that actively respond. The whole program was an incentive to get new volunteers. So hopefully with this, we can hold on to the ones we got and maybe get some new ones. because volunteers are hard to come by. People cannot afford to volunteer anymore. It takes a couple of incomes, plus one, to do anything you want to do today. So we approved it in September. It went into effect Sunday. We just haven't got the list yet from the chiefs of each department who are there actively firefighters and also volunteer EMS, the volunteers. So that'd be a good program, hopefully. The next thing on the list here that certainly affects Chincoteague is finally and I'm the vice chair of the Virginia Tourism Commission. When we got that ARPA money, it was marked for new programs for the chambers and any of the incorporated towns that wanted some money to initiate new programs to bring people here. So our, I guess you call him our director for the tourism, contacted all the towns in Accomack, and of course the two chambers, and we had $260,000 to split up. But you had to show us what you were going to use it for. Well, Chincoteague was the big winner. They got $80,000. And those initiatives, they wanted a website rebuild to have, you might know what it is, an ICND platform. Anybody know what that is? That's what their website rebuild is going to be. Digital outdoor kiosk machine. Instagram blogger. Photo, video library editions. WBOC news advisements. And 13 news on the Tegna, I guess that is. I don't know what that is, but those were the things that Evelyn come up with, and she got the most money. Actually, the next highest was the Nancock. They got $50,000, but we still got some change left because the smaller towns, they had no idea how to initiate any kind of tourism programs. You know, we almost had to walk them through it, say, ask for this and you can get this. So most they got was like $10,000 here, maybe $15,000 here, and they got to show proof they spent it for that. So we got some change. If Evelyn needs more, she certainly knows. She's on the board. She'll certainly ask for it. So we see what we can do about that. So going right down the list, the Eastern Shore Public Library. One thing, and I'm on the air, I know that, but one thing, it's got the wrong name. It's not the Eastern Shore Public Library because only one entity has contributed anything to it. We've got a promise from the other county they're going to send us $100,000, but I haven't seen it yet in 6 months. So you all read the papers, and you know that we had to let the contractor go after giving him multiple chances to get this done. And we entered into an agreement with the Performance Bond Surety to complete the remaining work. And the completion date now is no later than April 20th. So we'll see what happens. It should have been December something of 2020, I believe it was, the first date. Just COVID set in, and then everything else set in. So in 22, fiscal year 22, May of 22, we had a little meeting over here, as Board of Supervisors, about a strategic plan. What was important in the county? We had it over here at the firehouse one Saturday morning, and we come up with some initiatives, like 25 strategic goals, ranging from universal broadband to increasing housing opportunities on the shore. Some of those things Mike didn't put in these notes, but the number one thing that we come up with was teacher salaries and retention. In this county, we're steady trying to get the General Assembly to approve the COCA. The Northern Virginians don't want it. because they say they won't get enough. They won't get equal money, and I don't know how they can figure that. It's not. So I don't know. Maybe someday. Keep praying, but we're still going to fight that. And we're only lacking now about, is it seven? It's either 17 or 18% of, after this last building goes with broadband, it will have the whole county covered with something. Where there's areas where Spectrum's in there, and they provide the services for everybody on that street, broadband doesn't go in there. But if there's one left out, we're going to go in. We're going to make sure everybody has some type of internet. And some other things that we already took care of was we had like Shingadig has a removal or disposal of trash and clutter. Accomack didn't have any policies like that, any laws, so we adopted one of those to try to keep some of these places cleaned off. And we also come up with a revitalization plan. And we actually put it into code, Accomack County Code, and we have actually just gave our first grant to Whitesville, a group in Whitesville, to clean up those derelict buildings there. I think we give them like $250,000. Yeah, it's a volunteer group. And it's a big deal because we have a lot of little towns around that county that need a lot of cleaning up. So that's what Mike gave me. Of course, he said, he put a little note here, if anything comes up about the county providing town tax data to the town late, that's a county treasurer issue. It's not a county administrator issue, all right? So there's one other thing here that's very important to the fire company, very important to the police department. But let's see. Well, it's a 24-month build-out on this, but there's agreement. The agreement has been signed with L3 Harris to implement a new system executed. Well, this was executed last month, costing about $9.5 million, and it's being paid by grants and the 2 counties. And it's a new radio system for fire, EMS, 911 dispatch agencies, and it's going to benefit this island big time. It will upgrade the radios you carry and also what's in your comm center there and what you guys have over there and what we got. So don't go buy anything new right away because it's going to take 24 months to get going. The new tower site locations are going to be Shingatig, Mattsville, Accomack, Craddockville, in Eastville. So that's a big dollar thing. $9.5 million was only a portion that we had to pay. I think it was over 27 million. I think it was, or something like that. But yeah, I think Elaine Laurie come here and presented a big check from it, for a big grant money for it, and it's going to happen. Everything's signed. So I'm looking for questions if you've got any. Like I said, we're getting ready to go head over heels into the budget. I think he's going to give it to us right after President's Weekend is when it's handed to us, and then all the fun begins. Everybody comes in, how much of the pie they want. But
I have a question.
Yeah.
The tax relief on the vehicle for fire companies, is it up to the treasurer to say which vehicle? If you got 2 or 3 vehicles, well, how does that work?
Oh, it's up to it's it's good. Of course, it's not a foolproof system, but the one that the volunteer rides in to respond to the scenes, the pickup trucks and that stuff.
Okay.
and that can get pretty pricey.
Yeah.
Some of these pickup trucks are big time money.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's up to the chiefs to provide the list. I recommended that all the active volunteers get it, and then anybody on our workman's comp policy. They're the ones we have to pay for that are out there doing stuff, and there's some life members still doing stuff. There's some honorary members doing stuff. Workman's comp makes the officers be on there. That's just a thing. We have to be on there. So it's going to be it's going to cost the county a little bit of money, but maybe it'll get some people to hang around and maybe get some new ones in. Because that personal property tax can eat you up.
Can you figure out a way to tie that into the carnival volunteers? 'Cause that's what we do.
Yeah, how can we do that, Denise?
I got a plan.
Yeah, we got a plan.
Be good.
Yeah. By the way, we had the best carnival that's been ever had in the 90, how many years? 95, 97? Yeah, the best. It's really a good year. And I'll sit here
Thank
and
you,
listen
Billy
for a
Joe.
little while.
All righty.
Thank you.
All right. Come on, computer. Billy Joe talks along, my computer went to sleep. I got it. All right. Next up is staff reports, general government, Mr. Talbert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under general government, we're still talking about drinking water this month. During the month of December, I worked with Senator Warner and Senator King's offices, and as well as some the NASA legislative liaison, to include language in Congress's end-of-year spending bill for the relocation of our wells. As you know, Wallops would like to see our wells off their property. Negotiations, I felt, I guess this is typical in Congress, but I felt like they were very rushed. It happened mostly all in one day. And to make a long story short, what we were offered in the morning, I said no to. And at the end of the day, we were back to what was originally offered 5 years ago. For a 5-year-old estimate, I didn't think that amount of money would have a chance of doing what we need to do. So I said, no, we'll just wait for next year and try to insert it in the proper time next year and get all the language done correctly. NASA has said that they would consider helping us fund the redo of that estimate. So I'm going to try to take them up on that and see if we can get an upgraded estimate so we can go back in next year and ask for the money all over again. In Chincoteague Center, we had 2 commercial events, 2 community events, and 1 nonprofit event in December. Right now in January, and this is our slow season, bookings include 1 commercial event and 1 nonprofit event in January. We do have a blood drive happening tomorrow if any of you want to come by. Memorial Park Boat Ramp, the council awarded construction of Memorial Park Boat Ramp to Fisher Marine Construction. That is December 5th meeting. After a few week delay, I think we've finally got our act together. The contractor he has obtained his certificate of insurance as well as his bonds, and we'll be coming in to sign the contract any day now. That does not affect his period of performance, which we had a 10-day notice, or a 10-day, he got 10 days to sign the contract and 15 days to, after that, was noticed to proceed. So that's 25 days total, and I started the clock running at the end of the 25 days. So May 1st is his completion date, and he said he should have no problem meeting that date. So we're looking forward to getting that started. Meals and Transient, the chart, or the table that I usually present you is for the collections in December, which of course was for the level of business in November. We've been looking at a bubble for the last several months in Transient and meals, but Transient's taken off and turned up in the month of December. So right now, if you look, I'll skip down here to the charts. If you look at collections, actual collections in the month of December over the last several years, you see that we are up on transient occupancy, and meals looks like we still have a slight bubble there, but transient occupancy tax was up 14% this month of December over the December of the last 4 years, so I think that's significant. On the financial side, on general finances, of course, the ARPA money that showed up this fiscal year is skewing our revenues, but when we correct for that, we're actually at 54% budget in the general fund for revenues, and if you correct for it, we're at 48% overall, which is typical of this time of year. And in addition to that, our expense categories are very similar to what we have had in previous years, and that's showing decent budget discipline at this point. And if anybody has any questions at all on finances, I'd be happy to answer those for you. Tax collections, and I looked again this morning. This was done. This data was done on December 28th, but I looked again this morning. We're actually higher than that. We've collected 76% of our real estate budget and 68% of our personal property tax budget. It's actually a little higher than that right now, which you would expect. Taxes were due December 31st, so right now we always have about this many stragglers coming after the fact. Building and zoning. Mark did 38 building permits in the month of December, did 74 inspections. We had a total of $1.4 million in construction cost, and with a total permit fees collected of $5,300 and a few fines there. And with that, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Anybody have anything for Mr. Talbot? Thank you, Mike. Moving on, Chief Fisher.
Yes, sir. Thanks, sir. In December 3rd, we held our annual drive, and also the same day we assisted with the Shake Big Old Fashioned Christmas Parade. The toy drive was a rain out pretty much, but we did have some people. 2 motorcycles showed up and several vehicles, so I think everybody had a good time that day, and I can't thank this community enough for our toy barrels and everything that we had out. If you saw the pictures on the internet that Benji posted on our Facebook page, it was just amazing. The amount of toys that we had this year over at the firehouse. We had to move it over to the firehouse this year. And we actually, on December the 14th, we had the parents come pick up everything. Well, actually, December the 14th, we went shopping for, the wish list that the kids had. And then I believe it was the 19th, I believe, that Monday, when we had the parents come up. And we wind up this year, I believe it's the most we've ever done. We did 20 families and 43 children that we were able to help out. And we still were able to donate what toys and things we had left over to Atlantic Volunteer Fire Company. So, I mean, the community is just awesome when it comes to these kids and, helping everybody out at Christmas. And I can't thank everybody enough for that. The only other thing we really had was on December 5th and 6th, we sent Investigator Barnes to a training over in Newport News for trauma-informed sexual assault investigations, which was, he reported that was very good training. He thoroughly enjoyed it. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Anybody? I just have a statement. I happened to ride by Atlantic after y'all had given them the toys, and they had a line. It was incredible, all the way down the building.
Yes.
People waiting. That's amazing.
Yes, it is. But we're glad that, we can help them out also.
And to see all the toys over in the
Yes.
hall, I was like, holy cow.
Oh, yes.
Very generous.
It is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Thank everybody so much.
If I
Thank
may
you,
really
Ross.
just these young families working 2 or 3 jobs, and you see the need. I sometimes think it's need.
Oh, yes. Yes, it is. It is.
Amazing.
We're happy that we're able to help everybody.
All righty, Mr. Parks, you're up.
Good evening. As far as the Waterworks Department, they continued doing water service repair. And one thing I've quickly come to realize, it's hard to get many pictures of anything they do because everything they do, they cover up. So it's hard to see somebody's progress and somebody's work when it just gets covered up every time. It either looks like I'm taking a picture of a mud pie or just the grass. But over Christmas weekend, there was about 23 hours worked on emergency calls. And I think a lot of what these guys are doing is not necessarily always seen, but they really turned on during that cold snap with emergency calls and shutting water off and stuff. So moving on to the public works side, we poured some concrete over at Brianna Park for the chess tables, and that turned out successful with only a few footprints, but we were able to get those worked out. So no handprints, no initials, no, but that turned out good. You can skip down a few, and the pictures are kind of taken. It looks very different now once the chess tables and everything are mounted on the concrete. We had some weather events that kind of took a toll on our Christmas lights. And that was, when I walked up to that, I thought, wow, this is destroyed. We're just going to have to take it down. But I think it was a matter of about 3 hours later, they had everything patched back together and lit back up. So that was successful. And then one of the big accomplishments we got done this month was the purchase of a 2019 backhoe to replace our backhoe. And we explored some options of having ours worked on and revamped, and decided this might be the better way to go. So we actually traded in our backhoe, got $33,000 for it, and purchased this one. So the total purchase price with the trade-in was $74,500, and we had $90,000 in the budget for a backhoe. So I feel like we did pretty good on acquiring that, and hopefully that'll last us for a long, long time. So items for January, just the usual maintenance stuff that we always have going on, removing Christmas decorations, hopefully begin on some renovations inside this room, and some drainage issues we've got going on South Main Street. So that's about all I've got. If you got any questions.
Any questions? I've just got one. And you've heard me before at Public Works. If you could ride down to Ocean Breeze and look at and see bass. The other roads are paved, those two are not, and they need some scraping or something. Because of all the rain, they've got ponds in the middle of them. It's not just potholes, it's ponds.
Is this recently you've seen this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, especially like sea bass. Where it turns, it gets wallowed out. You've got a mound of material on one side, and you've got a big hole that fills up with water.
Okay. 'Cause we went down there a few weeks ago.
Right, I saw
and
where y'all
paved-
have been and put like millings
Right.
down some of them, but it doesn't look like those two have seen anything.
All right. We will definitely take a look.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Parks. All right.
I have one question,
Good.
not necessarily for Wes, but I guess from Mike. I was reading in one of your updates, or weekly updates, about that we're gonna need to replace Christmas decorations. And no time like the present, I guess, to start thinking about them since they started. I saw them started taking down today, and I don't know exactly what our plan is for that. I don't know. I was don't know how the other ones got here. I know that Christmas by the Sea program helped greatly with those before, but the ones that are totally of no use anymore, is it necessary to keep them now, or can you go ahead and?
I would recommend that we pack everything away as nice and neatly as possible so that in anticipation of putting them back up next year, because you don't know what's going to happen.
Mhm.
But then we'll do our best to see if we can't get some money together to purchase some new decorations next year. Maybe one of my ideas was to maybe get a committee together to investigate what kind of directions, what we want things to look like, and then start pricing it. And of course, we have to look for the money to do that.
I personally, I don't know, we can talk about it later. Everything that's all lit up looks great, but they're the things that seem to get destroyed the quickest, or go downhill the fastest, I should say. So yeah, I think it'd be great to explore some other things.
Sure.
Thank you.
All righty. Rush?
Sorry, Brian.
Not a problem. Good evening. Mr. Talbert's going to bring up my presentation. Okay, as you can see from based from your report to what the end of the year numbers were, we definitely went up a few, about 15 from where we were at in your report. So we ended up with 4 less than where we were at in December of 2021. So essentially pretty even. Now 2022 in the rear view, 1,069 total runs. That's 45 more than in 2021. The top 5 runs by dispatch, now granted what dispatch says and comes up with based on callers' information and whatnot, isn't always what the medics find when you arrive on the scene. A general illness can turn into a cardiac arrest. A cardiac arrest can turn into someone that maybe just overindulged the night before. But our top 5 runs by dispatch were sick person number 1, breathing problems, chest pain non-traumatic, meaning somebody that was having chest pain related to cardiac type events and or respiratory, falls, and abdominal pain. So those were the top 5 runs by dispatch in 2022. The top 3 busiest days, Mondays, busiest day of the year. Saturday comes in at a close second, and Sunday and Thursday tie for third. So definitely some interesting bits there, because you would think Saturdays and Sundays would be our busiest because, again, when you go through the summer and even in our shoulder seasons, Saturdays and Sundays, but Monday was the big winner. Our top 5 age range of all of our customers, top age range that we deal with, 70 to 79-year-olds. Then followed by 60 to 69-year-olds, 80 to 89, 50 to 59, and then lastly 30 to 39. In that top 5 range. What I did want to point out, though, is our 90 to 99-year-olds. We dealt with 20 of those in 22. And then those that were less than 1 year old, we had 8 of those. So in your extreme age ranges, you're less than your 1-year-olds, you're 90 to 99-year-olds. So as you can see, we are statistically an aging population here on Chincoteague. I think we already knew that, but the numbers just go to prove that we do have an aging population here. So again, busy 2022. Last few months up until December, we talked about backing down a little bit. I think there was a month there we were less than 14 from the prior year. But December came through and the rest of the year being busy. On the emergency management side of the house, we're still watching the current COVID wave that's coming upon us, and some of the other information that's out there, trying to, again, keep our responders safe as well as the public. The FY23 Local Emergency Management Planning Grant, as I stated last month, was awarded. All the signatures were accomplished the first part of December, and work on our EOC should begin sometime this month. So we may be relocated a time or two throughout the period, and hope to have that all finished up by spring. We're still waiting and seeing, but planning for the Rocket Lab launch that was not to be, and no firm date has been set for that yet. And then the next Antares on or near March the 7th. So that'll be the NG19, and that'll be the last Antares to launch from Wallops for some time. So be looking for that in March. I noticed the looks on some people's faces last month when I had sardines up here. So today I went with potted meat just to make sure we covered everything. But now's the time to prepare. If you look at the 23rd of December, the day before Christmas Eve, that big wind that came through that tore up some of our Christmas decorations. There was some ice and things like that involved. What would you have done had the power been out for 4 or 5 days through Christmas? Were you prepared? You know, that the turkey wasn't already cooked. Okay, so we need to make sure we have supplies on hand in our pantry, some water. We're fortunate here on Chincoteague that, you know, we are able to get water most of the time. We don't have to rely on our own personal well. But again, perishable food. You need those non-perishables. Don't forget about the pet, flashlights. Leave the candles alone because that's how fires can get started. So flashlights, there's plenty of neat lights out here on the market now. Make sure you have those. And then always make sure you know where your insurance and emergency paperwork's at. What if you have an insurance claim? Do you know how to get a hold of your insurance company and so forth? Just a little event like that could have done a lot of damage. So again, now is the time to prepare, not during hurricane season, not when a nor'easter's 2 days out, now. So Chincoteague and COVID. We're no longer reporting 7-day moving percentage across the board now. We've got a bunch of new matrix. So I've tried to bring some information together to make it palatable so that you can kind of see where we're going. So if you look at the Chincoteague totals, I started with June 6th of 22, and we've went up through January 3rd of today, and tried to take them on the days that we had our council meetings to use off of those numbers. So if you want to go back and look at the prior numbers that were reported. And you can see there towards August, we had a pretty big wave, and then it began to back off. And if you look over in the graph on the left-hand side, that's all the cases of the state. And then this is actually in the week ending of December 31st. So you can see we start to come off that August-September time frame, and our numbers kind of mirror up to that when you look at this. So even, you know, the graph on the left is state numbers. When you look at our numbers on the right, we're pretty consistent with when we have these ebbs and flows of the COVID. So again, we're into another wave right now. And this is all that's being reported, too. That's one thing I want to caution you. If you take a home test and you go, oh, yep, got COVID, you hang out for 5 days or so, nobody ever knows about it, okay, unless you tell somebody, of course. But these are only the numbers that are actually being reported either from a doctor's office, from a hospital, for the individuals that, you know, go in for that type of testing. And there's way many more that are not doing that. They're testing at home, self-treating, and which is nothing wrong with that. You should test yourself, self-treat, and hopefully you're back in the game within about 10 days.
And Brian?
Yes.
Can you go back?
Absolutely.
So that January 3rd, 2023 at the very bottom, that's 693. That's the total amount of cases since the pandemic began, right?
Since it began.
Okay.
Yeah, since it began. So when you really put that in perspective, that's still kind of a low number.
Yeah.
You know, it's still kind of a low number. But what you can really look at are the numbers in parentheses over to the right. That kind of, I wanted to break it out so you can kind of see, you know, and here again, that January 3rd number, we've went 32 in the last month. So we're really pushing up against where we were about that 40 on August 1st. So hopefully, you know, we see this for maybe another month, and then it'll wane. Oh, wrong way. I just went to meet again.
Yeah.
And so you see all the variants at the bottom. We started out last year. We were talking about Omicron, that BA.1.1. Now we're looking at XBB. But most of what we're seeing right now is the BQ1s, the BQ.1.1. If you look all the way to the right of the graph there in the different colors, it's a lot to take in. But again, we're going through those variants. Just like the flu goes through its variants from year to year, COVID's going to do the same thing. And COVID's doing so a little quicker than what the flu does. But eventually, again, we're going to talk about it just like we do the flu. So in summary, EMS finishes the year busy. Everyone needs to be weather aware. Now's the time to prepare. So again, yes, we know about nor'easters. We know about the high tides, although there's still people out here that, well, I don't understand. Why is the water coming up? Because the water does that. So, and it's salt water, so driving through it's not a great idea. Just put that little service announcement out there. But certainly, we could see a snowstorm or two. The wind, we saw what the wind can do, and that's possible at any point in time. And you could even get a day, you know, we've got a, 60-degree day today. I think they're forecasting mid-60s tomorrow. And you can get a cold front to come through and have a very severe thunderstorm wind event that can wreck our world in a matter of minutes. So be prepared. New COVID wave is underway, and don't forget cold and flu, too. It's out there.
The new wave of COVID that's underway with those variants mimicking the same as this sinus stuff, or is it something totally different?
So the typical sore throat, fever, I don't feel good, hacking, coughing, you know, they're all part of it. Those are your main. Are there other things? Absolutely. But you're going to respond to it differently than I will, as opposed to Councilwoman Richardson, Vice Mayor Bott, so forth. So, again, if you think you might have symptoms, just do a test, and 5 days, you should stay away from people. After the end of 5, if you start to see yourself improving, you have no fever, and not using any medicine to control your fever, then you can go back out in the real world, but you should wear a mask out to day 10. So, any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Rush.
Have a good evening.
You too. All right, moving on. We've got one committee report this month, and that will be Public Works with Ms. Richardson.
Yes, sir. Thank you. On December the 6th, Public Works Committee met. We discussed the review of Cropper Street project, and also reviewed Spring paving project, and we also reviewed the South Main Street drainage and paving project. Director Parks did some more figures on the cost of Cropper Street, and his approximate cost was $399,682. He also informed us that the $128,000 from the ARPA fund would be used towards that, and Town Manager Talbert advised that $271,000 would be taken from the road maintenance funds. So, Mr. Parks, you have anything you want to add to this?
I don't believe so.
You don't believe so? Mr. Talbert?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and I had asked the question about how much money would we have left after we took this amount from our road maintenance, and it would be $133,000 and some. Do we have any questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I know what I'm gonna ask. Is the concrete pipe on the street? The concrete pipe on the street where you're paving?
I'm sorry.
Is it concrete water pipe? Cropper Street. Does it have
Translate.
concrete? Huh?
Translate?
That's what's there.
Are we replacing it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be doing it if we weren't.
That's what I'm saying. That's what we've been going for the whole time. I say every time we replace, every time we do a road, we're replacing pipe.
Oh, yeah, you got to.
And we had hoped to start this spring, but I don't think we're gonna be able
That's a
to.
biggie.
That was my next question. That was,
The problem, the issues are, we ordered this material, I think, back in May.
That's right.
For the material to do this water line project. Of course, we can't get that material. We're not going to do the road. We're not going to start the road until we get all the material. We still have yet to receive all the material. It's a long lead item. Normally, it's a few weeks. These days, it was 30 weeks, and we still don't have it all set. We're not about to start tearing the road up before we have everything in hand. So.
It would be, not even cook another composition of the pipe, but it's a 50-year pipe, and that's how long it's.
Right.
That's how long it's been there. So I mean, we're just crazy to condemn somebody having that pipe for that many more years before it's done.
Correct me if I'm wrong, it will be the water line replaced, the sidewalks, the roadway,
Storm drain.
And the storm drain.
Yes, ma'am.
That would be all replaced in that road, just like they did on Mumford Street.
Correct.
And are they replacing any connections to people's places?
Yes.
That will be replaced also. So all that will be new, just like Mumford Street.
In fact, that's some of the material we're waiting for.
It's what?
Okay.
That's some of the material that's
Some
still
of the
waiting.
material. Okay.
A project of this size with that whole street, how do you, or do you, inform the residents ahead of time that this is getting ready to happen?
I believe last time we sent everybody a notice, did, Brian, remind me, we do a code red call?
We did.
We did a code red call as well,
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
Brian can narrow just the addresses on that street, and we did that as well. We did everything but knock on doors. But I don't think there were any complaints the last time we did this from the residents. I mean, yeah, they have to live with us, nobody likes to do that, but
Yeah.
finished product when you get done
They
is
were
greatly
satisfied.
improved, so.
Just make sure they're well informed
Yes,
before
ma'am.
this starts to take place. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. All right, we need to adopt the minutes for our December 5th meetings. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? I'll entertain a motion to adopt. So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank y'all. Next up is committee reappointments, and at the present time, we have two.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
there's one item before that.
Oh, Christmas tree. That's right in front of me. It's not blue. All right. The Santa Claus and his helpers rode around the island, looked at the various decorations. Got a few winners. We've got two categories. We had most festive and traditional. In the category of festive, of course, there were Ginger and Bill Birch at 7079 Bunning Road. They always have a big display of stuff. Second, for the festive, was Jakey and Debbie Chericks at 6520 Church Street with their Mouse Village, I guess you'd call it. And the traditional, the runner-up was Gene Jester and David Taylor there at 4147 Ridge Road. They had a good front yard. And the winner for best traditional and best overall went to Delmas and Teresa Mears at 4389 Chicken City Road. Delmas had a lot of trees in his yard this year. Looked real good. All righty, so there goes the winners of the Christmas. If we could get those in the paper also. All right. So now the committee reappointments. As I was saying, we've got two people that are up. One of them is Danny Bowden for the Harbor Committee. I'll entertain a motion to reappoint him to the Harbor Committee. Motion, second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The next reappointment is, we have to recommend, but he gets appointed by the judge. And that's Mr. Mike McGee for the BZA. He's been on the BZA for longer than I can remember, because he was on there when I was there. But I'll entertain a motion to send it to the judge for his reappointment.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next up is our bamboo ordinance. Mr. Talbert?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The ordinance committee met in September to, among other things, review the existing bamboo ordinance and decided to make some changes. The existing bamboo ordinance, which was adopted, I believe, in April or May of 2020, was slightly cumbersome, particularly one section of it made it difficult to understand even by the folks here in the office. So we researched the state code and found some simplified wording in their bamboo ordinance, and the ordinance committee reviewed it and decided to adopt the changes. The changes are in front of you. Basically, the ordinance committee eliminated section C, which was the section really no one understood completely. It was a little ambiguous, and that it could mean a few different things. Eliminated that and substituted some wording that is in the state ordinance, which is very clear and concise. Also, the ordinance committee decided to adopt the penalties which are contained within the state ordinance, which are substantial for violations of this ordinance. But if there are any questions of that, I'll try my best to answer them.
Any questions? Council's asked to approve of this by vote. So I'll entertain a motion to adopt the modified ordinance.
Motion.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next up is the trolley budget. And Mr. Talbert, if you want to cover that, do so quickly.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Thank you again. The trolley grant application is due February 1st, so we always try to dispense with this early in January. It's fairly straight. Differences this year, the big difference is I bumped salaries for drivers up to $15, hoping to attract some additional drivers. If you remember, last year we ran on a shortened schedule because we couldn't attract enough drivers and we couldn't work them every night either. So if we can get 7 drivers, we can work a shift of 3 every other night with 1 extra, and that works well. It has in the past. So you can see our total operating budget for the trolley this year is just over $100,000. Of that, the town's share is $28,147. The rest is carried by a state grant. Also, you'll see in the trolley budget down under capital expense that we have a capital expense of $158,000. This represents the balance on the new trolley, which we ordered back in 2021. We've paid a deposit on it, and if you remember when we reviewed it at that time, the cost of the new trolley is $165,500. We get an 80% federal grant, a 16% state grant, and we have to come up with 4%. And of that 4%, we're allowed to use the money that we have in the capital account, in the trolley capital account, of which we have much more than $6,600 in there. So basically, we're getting a new trolley for little or no capital outlay.
Plus we get this dispose of the trolley, right?
We get to surplus the existing trolley and put those funds back in the capital account, which I think is when they disposed of the last one, that's where the money in this capital account came from. So it's kind of a win-win-win for the town here. So I would recommend that we adopt this budget, and I'll go ahead after that and prepare the grant submission and get that in.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank y'all. Now, the reason that we're all here, and been here, and been here, and been here, our sewage plant acquisition. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Talbot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I just want to provide a little background on this, a brief background on this. In November of 2020, the town of Chincoteague began negotiations with Blue Water Development Corporation and Sunset Bay Utilities, then the owners of the Sunset Bay sewage treatment plants, for the town's acquisition of their treatment facility and permits. These facilities include 2 package treatment plants, limited collection system, and operating permits sufficient for existing and some future capacity. The Town Council announced at the February 17, 2022 workshop meeting its intended acquisition of Sunset Bay's facilities, and is reporting here tonight that as of December 30th of 2022, this acquisition has been completed, with the town now owning the existing plants, collection system, and discharge permits. All facilities were acquired through the donation from the developer, who will lease and operate the plant from the town for up to 1 year. Ownership of this plant provides several advantages for the town, not the least of which is the additional capacity provided by an approved and unused 37,500 gallon per day permit. This additional capacity can be utilized to offer service for commercial customers that currently have little or no sewage options. During negotiations with the developer, town officials also conducted parallel discussions with the Hampton Roads Sanitation District. To date, HRSD has agreed to take ownership of the facility from the town, service the existing customers, and develop additional capacity to utilize the unused permit. The developer's lease will cease when HRSD assumes ownership. HRSD will operate the facility as part of their service area, with the town retaining the right to approve new customer connections. For its part, the town has agreed to fund immediate upgrades to the existing plants upon transfer of ownership to HRSD. At a public hearing last year on the use of the town's allocated ARPA funds, 80% of the speakers identified sewage treatment options as priority. The town's ARPA committee consequently recommended the use of a portion of these resources for this purpose. While this is a first step towards public sewage treatment on the island, we recognize that it is not a comprehensive solution. The town therefore is committed to working with HRSD and the appropriate state and federal agencies to develop additional treatment capacity within the corporate limits. The council is asked to vote to approve this resolution ratifying the acceptance of this donation. And the resolution is included for your review.
Any questions about this? Comments?
Thank God it's over.
Yeah, indeed.
I make a motion to adopt the resolution.
Hang on a second. I just want to make a couple comments before we vote on it.
Okay.
And the comments are, just go toward Mike. We've had a lot of meetings on this, but we don't see the work that goes on behind our meetings. Countless hours of dealing with lawyers, engineers, other entities. This has been Mike's big item for the past year. He's done a lot of work, and I just want to congratulate Mike on carrying this across the plate.
Thank you, sir.
It's finally done. Thank the Lord.
Rest easier.
All right, now I'll entertain a motion that we approve the resolution accepting this donation.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Thank y'all. Shoo. That was a lot of work.
Yeah.
All right, and for your reading pleasure, the resolution that was written by the lawyers is underneath, so you can see that one. Mike's was much better. Anyhow, what we've all been waiting for. We can do our comments. Sure. We'll start on the left, Brother Jay.
Well, it says time, patience, and perseverance will accomplish all things, and Mike, we appreciate that. We know the hard work you spent on that project, and the citizens wanted it, and it's coming to fruition. It's got a ways to go, but we're on the road to success here. And I'd just like to thank all the Chincoteague citizens for their support and electing me to serve. I will do my best to serve this community.
Thank you, Jay. Dean Wayne?
Yeah, 22 is in the books. I enjoy working here on Chincoteague. People working together, got some things done. Park. I think Brother David is a big part of that thing. And favorite thing with David a while ago, what else we got on the agenda? And he's right. You know what I mean? We've got to still have needs. And like you was talking about with the kids a while ago, we step up because there's issues, and a lot of it's because we don't get out and work with them. So we're going to try to work harder with the kids. That's big on your agenda too, and try to make stuff that have stuff to do that it won't get in trouble.
Thank you, Gene. Brother Bill? Nope, we're good. Vice Mayor Bott?
Yeah, I'd like to take this opportunity to formally recognize Joyce Wessels. Had her funeral today. Brother Gene's grandmother-in-law, I guess. She worked for us for quite a while. She was an incredible lady. She didn't quite make the 90-year-old mark where we recognized a lot of her buddies there a while back, but she was pretty impressive. I wanted to formally recognize her at the meeting this evening. And also ditto on Mike for your work with the negotiations with the septic. I believe at one time you were working with 5 signatures and 4 different legal teams, I believe, and that's quite impressive. So, job well done.
Thank you.
Denise?
Yes, echoing Chris over here. For those of you that knew Joyce Wessels, those of you that grew up with her Sunday school teacher and things like that, she was just one of the nicest and sweetest people you'd probably ever come across in your life. She just made you feel loved as soon as she looked at you, and my heartfelt sympathies go out to her family. Mike, I jumped the gun, wanted to get that resolution done before Arthur could get a chance to say thank you, but, and you know very well how I was sitting here at this table all those nights, not whether to get mad or walk away or whatever, but it's done, and it couldn't have been done without you. For sure. Hope everybody had a good Christmas, New Year. Let's start it off right and get the business done for the town and do what we got to do.
Thank you. Ms. Richardson?
Well, I wasn't gonna say anything, but
Might as well.
You got to.
I would like to thank the Chincoteague people for voting for me again for the next 4 years. As I told them, I'm getting too old now. It's time for these younger ones to step up. But it's a pleasure to serve, and we are servants. And but it's a pleasure to serve. And I also want to thank Mr. Talbert. I sit here a long time. Mr. Mayor and myself, probably the two longest ones that's been here, and we've been working on sewage for God knows how long. Been promised how they could pull all this off and get us a permit and do this and do that, and all the money that we have spent. And we finally, it's been done, and that would not have been. Yeah, we got a little bit, but that took your perseverance to do it, and your knowledge. I know you've worked for the school board, and you're very, very knowledgeable into it. So I thank you, and I thank everybody else that had a part into it, the lawyers and the ones that donated their parts to other people. So I guess I've said enough. Thank you.
The floor is yours. You can speak all you want.
No. Don't care.
Well,
Patience would I have.
Huh?
A lot more patience than what I would have.
Well, you got, I'm like Jay now, you gotta have patience, you just can't.
well, luckily tonight we're all here, all together.
You can't throw in the towel.
We'll see what 2023 has in store for us. Hopefully it'll be a good one. That's yet to be seen, but it is what you make it, right? So, other than that, just want to thank the town employees. They worked hard over Christmas, keeping the lights lit and the water flowing. And sometimes you don't realize, it's Christmas, but they're still doing stuff. Other than that, I had a good weekend. My Tide took care of business. So, roll Tide. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion and seconded. All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
See ya.